I am an actuary.
I am an actuary.
I am an actuary.
Welcome to the We Are Actuaries podcast, where you'll meet leaders who use their actuarial powers to solve a range of problems and make a real difference. I am your host, Julia Lessing, and I'm a qualified actuary based in Australia. I help actuaries develop communication and leadership skills to build great actuarial careers. So settle in, learn from the best, and be inspired. Hi everyone, and welcome to the final episode of We Are Actuaries for 2023. Today I'm going to recap our most popular episodes and the themes from all of the interviews we've published since the We Are Actuaries podcast was born. Now, I've got to say, I've loved every one of the 30 conversations I've had with actuaries, where together we've showcased the diversity of what actuaries can do and how they can use their superpowers to make a difference in the world. Our guests talked about a range of topics from data science, climate change, making a difference with their work, moving into leadership roles, being experienced leaders, how to support their wellbeing, and loads of valuable career advice. So let me give you a quick summary. I'll include each of the actuaries' names and their episode numbers in the show notes to help you find the full interviews if there's something you'd like to go back and listen to. So let's get into it. Data science. It's probably no surprise that the most listened to episodes of the We Are Actuaries podcast were those on data science. Life actuary and data scientist Daniel Stone shared his story in episode 6 about how he started working in data science, and he also shares some tips for actuaries of all career stages about how to build their data science skills. Actuarial educator Amanda Aitken teaches data science applications with the Actuaries Institute, and she also shared some tips for actuaries wanting to build their data science skills in episode 4. Fellow actuary and host of the Value Driven Data Science podcast, Dr. Genevieve shared her advice for actuaries wanting to get into data science in episode 12.
I think a good starting point would be to learn some basic programming skills. I've worked with actuaries who are doing a lot of their work in Excel, and that's fine. But if you're going to go into the data science side of things, the first thing you need to do is be able to program. So start by doing even just a free online course on how to program in Python. And that's not going to make you a data scientist, but it's at least giving you a taste of what's involved with programming. And then start trying to use those skills to create some projects.
Climate change was a popular topic, and we heard from 2023 Actuary of the Year Sharanjit Paddam in episode 9. We also heard from new fellow Ruby Smith, who almost didn't get qualified because she knew she didn't want to work in insurance, but then realised that an actuarial qualification would help her build a great career in climate risk. In episode 28, she says this.
I sort of realised that even if I'm not working in a traditional role, it'll still be to my advantage to be an actuary in a non-traditional role. Similarly, because, actuaries are a respected profession. And even in the climate space, especially, like if government wanted some recommendations on a potential policy, like a climate-related policy, there's an actuary there suggesting something based on actuarial modelling, that's going to be very credible. And so I decided to do it, and I just finished this year.
And then we heard from actuaries who are making a difference. Data science and climate change are not the only ways that actuaries want to make a difference in their careers. And we heard from Kirsten Armstrong in episode 21 about how she built her career on passion.
I've always, throughout my career, wanted to do something that I feel passionate about and I feel proud of. I'm very privileged, as are many actuaries. We've got a really useful skill set that we can use for a range of different things. And for me, I get the most passion and achieve the most when I'm working in a space that I'm actually delivering an impact that matters to me. So I guess connecting with purpose.
We also heard from NDIS scheme actuary David Gifford in episode 19 about how all actuaries have transferable skills that would allow them to make a difference in the disability space. We also heard how actuaries are making a difference in the Australian superannuation space from Stephen Huppert in episode 11. And we heard about the opportunities for actuaries to help shape public policy from Aidan Nguyen in episode 29.
It's really any areas of society that we collectively
decide we want to take an interest in getting the policy right, whether it's our environment, whether it's our health system, and whether it's our financial health and our financial system. And then it's how we then come up with those common rules to improve our lives.
Now, one of the sponsors of the We Are Actuaries podcast is the Guardian Actuarial Leadership Program, which is a small group program for actuaries to network and build key communication and leadership skills over a 3-month period. We had 8 graduates from the Guardian Actuarial Leadership Program on the podcast this year, who each shared their reflections and advice for actuaries wanting to become managers. In episode 1, Laura Zhao shared her top tip for young actuaries wanting to build their careers.
Volunteer. So that's the most practical advice I can give to the younger actuaries, because building network is important, and building network in an effective way is even more important. And you get to work with someone or through the volunteering or through any other program that's of interest to you, the connection is closer and deeper. And that's how you meet people or build connection with people in an effective way.
We also heard from Desmond Muzorewa in episode 7, who described how he raised the profile of his small actuarial team across his organisation, one conversation at a time. In episode 8, Wang encouraged others to invest in soft skills training to accelerate their careers. And in episode 13, Alison Visser talked about the importance of tailoring your communication style so that your message lands. In episode 18, Storozhev confesses to loving his technical work, but acknowledges that an important shift for any leader is to learn to step back and step away from the detail.
I love the technical side of my actuarial roles, the analytics, building data science, pricing models, even Excel. But in a leadership role, I had to give up some of that fun to the team, to let them develop in the same way that I had developed, or even in a better way. Being able to identify what you have to give up is a skill in itself.
Cameron Morris pointed out in episode 20 that you don't have to be someone's formal manager to take on a management role. Alex Leung reminds us that if we are doing the work, we're not actually managing. Such an important point in episode 26. And US-based actuary Alan Shu reminded us that our direct reports will all want different things.
You could be doing the exact same thing for 2 people, and one person can think that you're micromanaging them, and someone can say that you're not giving enough guidance. It's about learning the people who you work with, making sure that they have the resourcing that they need, and talking it over with your peers and understanding that mistakes are okay.
We also heard from experienced leaders, including Ryan Boyd, who shared his definition of career success in episode 3. Stephen Huppert also talked about the importance of being aware of the emotional wake that we leave after every interpersonal interaction we have on episode 2. And industry legend Jennifer Leung shared her top tips for any actuary wanting to become a great leader in episode 10.
I think it comes back to curiosity for me. Just be really interested and curious about where you are, the difference that you make, and the environment that you're in. So learn as much as you can from what you're doing. So to me, it's all about curiosity.
Now, without intentionally doing so, I interviewed 4 guests who shared life advice to support your well-being. Martin Mulcare talked about the different ways actuaries can contribute to society in episode 14. Janice Jones shared her own experience of burnout and recovery and offered tips to build resilience in episode 15.
You might feel like everything's going really well, but when you think I'm drinking a lot of wine on a Friday night, or I have a lot of coffee to get through the day, I'm jumpy, I'm not sleeping well, there's signs that you're agitated, that you're not comfortable, but might not be able to pin why that is, but at least be observant that there's something going on here, and what am I anxious about?
Canadian-based actuary James Beng Lee shared his story of addiction and recovery and the importance of finding your life path in episode 17. And actuary and yoga teacher Sheridan Daniels shared a tip for improving well-being in episode 25.
In yoga, there's a practice called Pratipakshambhavana, which means developing the opposite feeling. So it means each time any sort of negative quality or reaction or emotion arises, It's to catch that immediately and flip it to the positive opposite quality. So it means if you're feeling unhappiness, how do you connect to something that brings you to happiness? If you're feeling irritation, you turn that to acceptance. Or if you're feeling anger, you utilize the force of that emotion to turn it to peacefulness.
Finally, we had 6 guests who shared career advice, which at this time of the year is always a good thing to hear. Kim Clough talked about her experience leaving a stable corporate role and joining a startup in episode 5. And Canadian-based Vietnamese actuary V talked about how she became an influencer and a YouTuber in episode 30. Irish actuary John Harney talked about the benefits of storytelling in episode 27. And 2022 Actuary of the Year Chris Dolman shared his 3 thought leadership personas in episode 22. I asked Mark Baxter for his advice for actuaries considering working overseas in episode 24, and here's what he said.
Just do it. It just opens up your life, or it has actually opened up my life. I've been really, really lucky with all the travel, and it's just been absolutely fascinating, sort of just an exciting thing to do. So just do it.
Inspired by Mark's encouragement, I also asked expat Mark Barda for some practical tips about preparing to move overseas with your family in episode 16. He said,
I'd say plan, but don't overplan. So, we looked at places that we might want to live. I'd already started trying to build a bit of a professional network in Israel before moving. But it was not, okay, let's make sure I've got the job by this time and we're going to be living in this particular house and the kids are going to be at this school forever, and not being too detailed on it.
So what's next in 2024? Well, we will kick off with Stephen Huppert turning the tables and interviewing me. I'll be talking about career transitions and my top tips to navigate them. Then we'll hear from the chair of the Professionalism Committee, Stuart Turner, about how actuaries can build their ethical muscles. We will also hear from the Actuaries Institute CEO, Elaine Grace, who'll be talking about actuarial career success and what she's observed of other actuaries who've carved out successful careers. The head of actuarial studies at ANU, Adam Butt, and new council member, John Shen, will also be joining the show in 2024. So, dear listener, thank you for supporting We Are Actuaries in 2023. I'd love to hear your questions, feedback, or suggestions about the podcast. And I look forward to bringing you more insights and inspiration from a diverse group of actuaries to showcase how they use their actuarial superpowers to make a difference in the world. Enjoy your holiday break, and I'll see you in the new year. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to get in touch, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your network. You'll find details from today's interview in the show notes below and on our website www.guardianactuarial.com.au. Until next time.